just exactly 45 minutes. So I want you to have the time you deserve for this conversation. Welcome, everyone. If you weren't here earlier in the service, know that you're very welcome here. We're glad you're here. I'll say it slowly. If you're having any trouble hearing me, I'd suggest you move, come in closer, because it probably won't get better. So if you see anyone squinting or having a hard time hearing, come on up closer. There's plenty of seats on the side as well. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. The Most Reverend Hosam Naoum, how do you say your last name? Naoum is the Archbishop of Jerusalem and the Primate of the Province of Jerusalem in the Middle East. The Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem operates more than 24 humanitarian institutions, including schools, hospitals, clinics, and centers for children with disabilities across Palestine, Israel, Jordan, and Lebanon. Under Archbishop Naoum's leadership, these institutions uphold the Christian values of equity, justice, and respect for dignity, serving the most vulnerable in the region. We're going to hear more about that. And then I'm going to go a little off script for the people that gave me a script, because I heard a great story about the Archbishop's education and some friends he has that you might want to know about. Will you tell us where you're from?
So I myself come originally from Nazareth, a village just outside Nazareth in Galilee. So I am a Galilean. I am a son of a carpenter, and I am a fisherman as well. That's what I do for fun. But I am Hosam. It's good to see you.
And what did Desmond Tutu call you?
Well, Archbishop Desmond Tutu,
yes,
he called me the kid from Nazareth. This is what he called me when I was in South Africa studying there, the kid from Nazareth.
The kid from Nazareth.
Yeah.
And you did your first degree in South Africa.
That's correct.
Yeah. At the College of the Transfiguration.
That's right. So I was in Grahamstown for 3 years, and that was the beginning of my kind of journey as an ordinand. I graduated in '96 and then placed into 2 congregations in Palestine, St. Matthew's in Zababdi, Jenin area, and also St. Philip's in Nablus area for about 11 years.
And then you were the dean of the Cathedral in Jerusalem.
Then I was moved to the Cathedral as a canon for the Arabic-speaking congregation, but then I was appointed as dean of the Cathedral in 2012 until I was elected as the next bishop.
Do you have any advice for a new dean of a cathedral?
I hope, yeah, deans normally, are appreciated in their dioceses. Yeah, so.
Tell us about the Diocese of Jerusalem.
So the diocese ministry is like any other diocese in the world, engages in pastoral work and for looking after the people and the people looking after itself, like within the church. But what is unique about the Diocese of Jerusalem is its ministry within the institutions that it really kind of run, between hospitals and clinics and rehabilitation centers and also institutions for the disabled, especially for children. And it does these programs because it believes in work and faith in action in the community. Because, if you think about it, so the church and the diocese is not just the building that we are in, but actually is reaching out into the community, trying to make a difference and transform the society and showing God's love to everybody. Like whether they are Muslims or Christians or Jews or atheists or whoever, but just being there among the people, and to see each and everyone as a child of God. That's basically the core of the ministry of the Diocese of Jerusalem, and I'm sure many dioceses do the same thing. But one thing unique, I would say, about Jerusalem and the diocese is that we do all of that in the place where it all happened. Where the Christianity, started in Jerusalem, in a sense, but with the ministry of Jesus, and from Jerusalem to the end of the earth. And that's what we're trying to kind of preserve, that important ministry is keeping the living stones, the living witnesses, Christians, in the Holy Land where it all began.
The language I've heard, is this correct, in Jerusalem, is that there's so much care for archaeological sites, but the living stones are the people. And there should be equal care for
that's absolutely it, because you think about it, like in Jerusalem, two aspects or two, I would say, two levels of ministry happen. Is that of the holy sites. Some people try to kind of make a distinction between what is the dead stones versus the living stones, but we don't like to call them dead stones. It's a kind of a misinformed term. We call them ancient stones, okay? Like ancient stones presenting, like a tradition and a space that like welcomed and preserved, these stories and these important incidents that happen in the life of Jesus, like the resurrection and like the transfiguration, the birth of Jesus. And for us, it's like walking both literally and metaphorically in the footsteps of Jesus. I think every Christian walks metaphorically in the footsteps of Jesus, but we add the dimension of the geography, of walking literally. Imagine we read the gospel of the entry into Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives. We process down into the old city. We go to the Holy Sepulchre to worship on the day of the resurrection, and so on and so forth with the Nativity and all stories that happen in these places that is traditionally believed that they took place. And for us, this is a blessing, and we as custodians of these holy sites and keepers of the faith in that place, I think this is the one important and unique ministry that we have for the whole church around the world, basically preserving that tradition.
Who here has been to Jerusalem?
Wow,
look at that.
Good number.
So one of the times I went, I've only been twice, I happened to be there on Epiphany, and I hadn't thought through what it would mean to be in Jerusalem on Epiphany. And I was traveling with rabbis and Baptists, both of whom were not interested in Epiphany. Right, so I was trying to explain what it was, and I just needed to go be in the street. And there are processions through the old city.
Yes.
And my family is the Syrian Orthodox. And so to see the patriarchs beating their staffs, walking the path in Old Jerusalem, I mean, it felt like it could be 1,000 years ago. So do you encourage people to visit?
Sorry?
Do you encourage people to visit today?
Of course. I think, like pilgrimage is, or visiting, or whatever people like to call it, but, for us, everyone comes to Jerusalem as a pilgrim because they embark on a journey. We believe that pilgrimage is a very important aspect of our ministry, and welcoming people to the cradle of our faith, our spiritual capital, Jerusalem, is at I would say, the top list of our recommendation for people to come and visit with us and be with those who are worshiping in these spaces. Absolutely.
So one of the things that feels very clear to me in this conversation and in your sermon is everyone here, and I feel like everyone I know, feels so distressed about the last couple of years and about the occupation overall. And the distress sometimes from a distance can be distancing in and of itself.
Yes.
And you were talking about engagement and resilience.
Absolutely.
So frankly, we're kind of asking for your resources around that. So what do you recommend for us? And then tell us about some initiatives that you're working on now that we can support.
Yeah, I am. Indeed, I spoke about the word sumud in Arabic, resilience. And it's an important word because it really kind of teaches us not to give up. Or basically, it teaches us how to hold on and to hope. Many people around the world, many friends ask me, are you optimistic about the situation back home in Jerusalem? I said, optimistic is not the word I would use. As a Christian, I prefer to use the word hope. I'm hopeful. I will always be hopeful because I know that justice and life and love has the last word and not oppression and death and darkness. We as Christians believe in that. But at the same time, this is not a naive concept of trying to kind of romanticize the situation, because at the end of the day, we have to face these challenges and really kind of confront them face to face. And part of our resilience is really kind of to educate, first of all, our people, to train ourselves on recovery, and that's a very important aspect of resilience. It's not about teaching yourself to be strong, because that's a very wrong, I think, misconception about resilience, is that you have to be strong. No, it's not about being strong, it's being able to stand up again and to recover and to rebuild and to reshape, reimagine. You need all of those tools, skills, in order to deal with a very complex situation. It's not like this way or the other when we speak about the situation in the Holy Land, because we know that many people have many narratives, and the world is divided between these narratives. So people would like to be pro-Israelis or pro-Palestinians, or people who are not sure, they don't know what to do, distant themselves, as you said, from this issue because it's complex, it's a hot pie they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think one safe way in which we can always engage ourselves in is by promoting peace, by promoting reconciliation and bringing people together. No one can challenge you for that. They can challenge you to tell you how we're going to do it. This is the challenge. So I really suggest that prayer, united in prayer, united in awareness, telling the story that, what happens there is really important. And I would add, since you asked me about pilgrimage, the first P would be pilgrimage, the second one will be prayer as the second P. So you've got two Ps now to think about and see. Coming to see and then kneeling down and praying for your siblings in the Holy Land.
Yeah. I think you've all been invited to Jerusalem, so we'll figure out how we do that here.
Indeed.
So tell us about AFEDJ, because that's a way we can get involved here, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Are there particular initiatives that AFEDJ is working on, or that you all are working on that? Yeah.
Indeed, and I think we are blessed to have the American Friends of the Diocese, the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, and they are seated on the front row just for you to identify easily. The board and the staff, they're working tirelessly. For many decades now, the American Friends have been one of the most important and significant supporters of the ministry of the Diocese of Jerusalem. I think, they work holistically with us, maybe we can focus on one institution at some point and then we shift to another. But the point is, how can we sustain the ministry of the Diocese of Jerusalem holistically? Yeah. We don't favor one institution over the other. But at the same time, in the case in the last 2 years, as you had in my sermon, I highlighted the work of Ahli Hospital in Gaza, because that was an example of how we, the Diocese of Jerusalem, with our partners like the American Friends and many others around the world, they stand with us in persevering, in persistence, in prayer, in order to reach that point of resilience. So we have these places that they are situated in very difficult places, but at the same time, they bring hope to us. They bring hope to the community. And that's why, as I said in my sermon, the hospital, Princess Basma, the Holy Land Institute for the Deaf in Jordan, these are beacons of hope in a place that is somehow hopeless, or let me say pessimistic a little bit, or even sometimes more. And we are there just to show that, Christ's hands and feet and heart is at work in these places. Even though it's a predominantly Muslim or Jewish neighborhood, but yet that space is there, gently, lovingly, presenting an aspect of ministry that is not possessive, not oppressive, but actually on the contrary, it is liberating, because it speaks from the heart and offering that love and support to needy children and needy people who are disadvantaged in the community. And I think that's and what is even more important, that we look nothing in return. Nothing. Zero.
It's free service.
Absolutely. It's self-giving, self-sacrificial service, lavish love poured out in these wonderful spaces we call these altars of love.
How were these institutions started? Were they international projects or local projects?
Actually, it's kind of, it's both in a sense. The ministry of the Diocese of Jerusalem began in 1841. So it's like for Jerusalem is only yesterday, as you can imagine. So after almost like 1800 years or something.
Yeah.
But Anglicans, let me say, the Protestant presence in Jerusalem was never seen as something that needs to happen. And until the kind of the Renaissance in the mid-19th century, when missionaries, they started to work not only in Palestine, but also throughout the world, in Africa, Latin America, and India, for example, and other places. Hence, having the Church of England spread. Among those missionaries were the CMS, Church Mission Society, and CMS started forming the diocese and building institutions. Because they felt that this is important, so they started building hospitals, including Ahli Hospital in 1882. So it's one of actually the oldest hospital in the city of Gaza, our hospital there. And the same thing with schools. And many of the schools until today, they're called CMS schools, like CMS school or CMS hospital, and so on and so forth. So it was built by locals, but with the vision of these missionaries in order to kind of, at that time, not only to generate a kind of ministry, but also to bring forth people, invite people to share in that ministry. I myself is a fifth generation Anglican, but I'm a Greek Orthodox before.
Yep.
So my family back originally are Orthodox as well, like yourself.
Yep.
So that's our journey. That's how things happen. Over the years, we added the number of these institutions, and we expanded, we enlarged, and really kind of invested in these institutions because we felt in a place where evangelism is not, I wouldn't say not welcome, but it's not encouraged in the traditional way of conversion and proselytizing. We felt that mission needs to be reimagined. How do you do mission in a place where you have lived for thousands of years, centuries, with your Muslim and Jewish neighbors? You don't look at them as people who in need of something, I don't know, because otherwise you would diminish your friendship with them. But at the same time, as a Christian, we are commanded with the Great Commission to evangelize and teach and tend and love. And so how do you do that? How do you kind of make a balance between these two important aspects of life and friendship? And the answer was faith in action. Presenting our faith through healthcare and education and reaching out to the poor and the needy. And people will say, that is the church. That is Jesus among us. That is God's presence in the midst of God's people, whether they are Christian, Muslims, Jews, or people of no affiliation.
Yep. That's fast. So my parents come from towns where there's a CMS college and a CMS hospital. Mm-hmm. Still.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Still, yeah. Amazing. This is putting you on the spot, so you can say no, but is there an example of a project that was a particularly effective partnership, from somewhere like the Diocese of New York or a parish with the Diocese of Jerusalem?
Yeah, indeed. I think, I can think of really a few examples,
yeah.
But I suggest for practical sake, it will be good if people could go on the website of the American Friends of the Diocese of Jerusalem and look there for specific projects that they can support. So depending on how much they want to be involved or how much resources they want to invest or help this or that project, if you know what I mean. So depending on what, but I would say the kind of urgency that we have right now is institutions in the West Bank specifically. You know, the West Bank, of course, which is the other side of Palestine. You have Gaza, and then you have the West Bank. And it has gone off the map, so to speak, because it's not heard about what is happening there. So St. Luke's Hospital, for example, in Nablus, is another important hospital, which is the twin hospital of CMS Gaza, CMS Nablus, that also serve in a very dire situation, very challenging place, that is surrounded by checkpoints, surrounded by, you know, like gates, surrounded by people cannot cross over from neighboring villages, and the hospital is not doing its full potential, reaching out to these patients who would normally come and benefit from these services. So that's one thing that really kind of like heavily on my heart. And also like the Christ School in Nazareth as well, which is in Israel, like my neighborhood, my hometown, that is also suffering of shortfall because of the pressures that we have. And because the people cannot pay tuition as they used to because of the war. You know, people are lost their jobs, companies has closed, hotels shut down, restaurants not working. So it has become like a kind of a communal, I would say, difficulty that affected the whole circle of life within the Israeli community as well. And another example in Jordan would be Holy Land Institute for the Deaf, that entirely depends on donations, and similarly for disabled children in St. Luke's in Beirut, Lebanon, also because of the war for many years now. The institution and the conversion between the dollar and the pound, Lebanese pound, went from 1,500 into 100,000 for $1. Imagine. Now we're talking about like 100 times. So people living in these difficult. So each place has, you know, difficulty that we try to intervene and to answer. And I have to say, like, without the American friends, these doors would have been shut. These doors would not have been kept open. In the same way we're doing it, we might downsize to a small clinic or looking after like daycare, or it will be diminished. But I think the American friends have enabled us to keep us running 100%. And that's a huge difference. That's a huge impact into the community as we serve people who are really desperate.
I think we all kind of got. Sorry, I feel like we've just been charged to go do something. You probably know this about us, but so many of our colleagues here and our community are just so grieved and feel responsible for the actions of I see you nodding, for our government and our government's choices, and frozen because of it. And how powerful to be given really concrete things that we can do together so that we can be in relationship with people and be supportive from here. So we're very grateful. And we will help to figure out how we coordinate that, but you also can just go to the website and go off on your own immediately and be generous. Switching topics a little bit, what is a typical day for the Archbishop of Jerusalem?
Like if you ask me about yesterday, so it will be different from last week, you know.
Yeah.
You know, let me give you just kind of a sense of what I normally do. So between looking pastorally for my clergy, whom I really love and admire so much for their resilience, as well as the directors of institutions that we keep in touch and get updates. So in my office, I look after finances, look after operation within the diocese, pastoral care. But then I have also, me and Father Don also, as the secretary of the Council of Heads of Churches, we do a lot of ecumenical work. So we facilitate the statements and work together with heads of churches in order to form a unified voice. So the Anglican Church has a very unique position of playing a role of that, gathering people, not because of ourselves, but because we are enabled by other churches to do that. And so that takes also a big chunk of our time together. Also, I'm involved in the Anglican Communion, as vice chair of the Anglican Consultative Council. So I do a lot of work within the communion. As you also may have heard, that I was also part of the CNC, which is the Crown Nomination Commission for choosing the Archbishop of Canterbury, and that took a lot of time from me as well.
We think you did a very nice job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Indeed,
yeah.
indeed, absolutely.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So we congratulate the Archbishop designate Sarah, and above all of that, also like interfaith work that also we engage in, and whatever is left, I keep it for my family to see how can we spend time with them as well. My parents also still living in Galilee. I visit with them, and my family, my nuclear family, my children and my wife also support me in my ministry, and they together also uphold that. So it's kind of a mixture of all of that together. Trying to manage a diary is Father Don does a fantastic job. Keeping me in sane first of all, and doing the job. So that's kind of what is it like to do in Jerusalem.
So this point you made about the unique position the Anglican Church is in, different. So one illustration maybe, and I'd love to hear more about this, about both kind of the access and power and kind of legibility that being an Anglican creates. I remember that at the coronation of King Charles, was that?
Yes.
You brought oil.
Yes.
Right. So you had interesting to be in the political position of where Palestinians are, and to have oil from Jerusalem brought by the Anglican Archbishop of Jerusalem. Tell me about that, but then tell us about that unique position that the church has.
I think, indeed, the position of the Diocese of Jerusalem, and because of Jerusalem, not because of individuals, but Jerusalem itself stands in a very important place, being the center of the world in many connotations, especially as a spiritual capital itself for many Christians and even beyond, for many Jews for that matter, or Muslims as well. But for us as Christians, Jerusalem stands in a unique place. And for the first time ever, that a bishop from outside the UK, basically Church of England and Church of Scotland, Church of Wales, that takes part in the coronation was really humbling. And to consecrate the chrism oil on the sepulchre, the Holy Sepulchre in the edicule of the Church of the Resurrection itself, and to take it to the UK was something I never, ever dreamt of doing myself, So it was a humbling thing, and it's truly symbolic. Going back to the kings of Israel with the anointment of the kings, and doing that back in England, for me, I think, was a spiritual thing that I never imagined that we can ever be part of this. So it was wonderful and humbling and all of that, but the humility also of His Majesty, and enabling many traditions to be present, not only Anglicans, but also other faiths, other denominations, was also important in that sense. So I think Jerusalem has important role to play, not only in the politics, the global politics, but I would say also in the global Anglican communion. I think because Jerusalem presents a sign of unity, a sign of unity. Despite all the things that are happening within our communion, Jerusalem is there to be that sign that unites everybody. Because why? Because of its hospitality. It welcomes everyone. It's God's city, and we cannot say that we possess the truth or we possess this or that. No. We are invited into God's truth, which is beyond our understanding as individuals or as communities.
It's remarkable. I think we've kind of got close to what we're allowed to talk about. So what do you, how much time we get? What do you want us to know here in New York about the Diocese of Jerusalem?
No, I think in a sentence or two, I would like to say that the Diocese of Jerusalem, first of all, is your other home. It's a space where people are welcome to join us on that journey, on that pilgrimage, where we are continuing a very important tradition that began 2,000 years ago. You are invited to be part of that mission, of that ministry that is transformative, it's loving, it's unifying, and what else is that you are contributing to the world peace. Because if there isn't peace in Jerusalem, I think, or let me say it the positive way, if there is peace in Jerusalem, there is peace in the whole world. That's what we believe, and the centrality of that, because it is the city of peace. So I really invite everyone to come and see, to come and help, come and pray, come and be part of this important ministry that is close and dear to our hearts. And we thank each and every person who keeps praying, who keeps supporting, who keeps the Diocese of Jerusalem and the people of the Holy Land in their prayer, because I think both Israelis and Palestinians, they deserve to live in dignity, self-determination, in two states that can ensure, first of all, security for both, but also dignity for everyone as well. That's very important. That's on our heart. That's what we call reconciliation at its best. And that's what brings hope to our communities.
And you've told us so much about the institution building that you all are doing, that serve. Is there also a function of the diocese? It sounds like there's in statements that is kind of working on peacemaking very specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. So that's definitely part and parcel of what we do, and we do it with the heads of churches, not only on our own, because we believe the unified voice of the heads of churches in Jerusalem is really important and more powerful, because that gives us, more, I would say, space and more credibility in order to kind of really sound our wish as Christian communities in the Holy Land, in the midst of the sounds of bombardment and war and suffering and all of that. That sheer voice that makes a difference and what keeps hope alive.
Yeah. Thank you. So we have a new word, samud. Is it right? Samud. Is that resilience? Samud.
Sumud.
Sumud. Resilience. And then, well, let's end with this. Tell us something now that gives you hope.
What gives me hope, myself, again, anchored in the very important hope that is given to us, what we call the living hope. Living hope in Jesus Christ, according to Peter's theology. In the resurrection, in the empty tomb where life resides, is definitely always there to remind us of the important living hope that we believe in as Christians. But also, in addition to that, I have the community and the relationship that we have as the church in Jerusalem with the larger body of Christ. And that gives me hope. That gives me hope because I know that I'm not by myself. It's not about myself. And I am there for the rest of the body of Christ to work together to bring about hope as much as possible, deep and wide. That's basically my understanding of hope.
Thank you so much. So one more question. So you've told us, the West Bank has lost focus in this time.
Yes.
So paying attention to what's happening in the West Bank is important. Noted. For those of us wondering about Gaza,
Yes.
how do we help, or is it possible to help?
Yeah, indeed. I think the part that we have is that we know that we might not have larger influence on what is going on because of the complexity. Certainly, we need to keep pressing and pressuring our governments, whether in the States or even in Israel or in Palestine, that people need to stop the language of fire. That has to stop. And I hope, the ceasefire holds. But in our own way as Anglicans, we are focused in the ministry of healing there. So now the future of the hospital is really not only promising, but also I think it's monumental because of the history in the last 2 years, even beyond, even before. The hospital has shown amazing resilience. And I think now it is time to reimagine what the hospital will look like for the future. So now we have a big dream about rebuilding the hospital, bringing in new ministry and new service there, like cancer treatment, and also artificial limbs for children that we're looking because of amputated parts, unfortunately, for many, many children around Gaza, and orphans and all of that. So I think the work is about to begin. The work is about to begin because there's so much need. There's so much need to be done. If we can do a drop, as much as a drop in the ocean, it's still a drop. And we will do whatever we can and whatever we could in order to enhance and rebuild and heal the wounds of the people, innocent people there.
Thank you. We hope that this will also be a home for you. Please come see us again. And will you help me thank the Archbishop of Jerusalem?
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.